And welcome back to This Week. Time now to get the views of our media and political experts, Metro Councilman at Large and Democratic Operative Jerry Maynard, and her daily on 1510 WLAC syndicated talk show host Steve Gill. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
The talk this week, the talk next week, going to be the property tax increase for Metro. The mayor wants 53%, 48% in the urban services district. Is some kind of tax increase going to pass? There's strong opposition in the polls, strong opposition vocally, leadership of Metro Courthouse, people in Metro. The majority do not want their taxes raised.
Well, no one really wants to have their taxes raised, but when you ask people, do you want services, do you want police, public safety, do you want your brush pickup, do you want schools, do you want effective schools, do you want your neighborhood to grow, do you want your city to grow? When you ask those questions, they say yes. In order to provide those services, you have to have an increase. Here's why. We haven't had a property tax increase in 7 years. Number two, if we do not raise taxes up to the 53-cent level, you're going to have to cut 200 police officers, lay off firefighters, fire teachers, all those things. Now, we did have the stimulus money that came in from President Barack Obama. If we had not had that a few years ago, we would have had to lay off police, firefighters, and teachers. It was a bridge that kept us going, and we relied on that stimulus money instead of raising taxes. We don't have that stimulus money now, Bob. So if we don't raise taxes, we're going to have to dramatically cut services to our city, and our city will not move forward. We won't be able to take advantage of being a growing city. Rather, we'll go backwards.
He makes a valid point, but you hear the sentiment. The numbers don't lie. The people of Metro are opposed to the idea of raising their property tax.
Well, I think what's interesting with Councilman McGuire that you've got him denying that the Beacon Center poll is accurate, but admitting that if we had a referendum, this would lose. So they know the people don't want it. They know the public isn't satisfied with this, and yet they're not really doing any cuts. It's a $100 million tax increase on the people of Nashville. And I think what a lot of people are saying is, shouldn't the people of Nashville have a say in it? Shouldn't the people of Nashville have a vote? Jerry ran for re-election saying, I'll raise your taxes. But most of the Metro Council did not. You shouldn't lie your way back into office and then use a bait and switch to raise taxes.
The positive of raising the taxes, the $100 million, will increase teacher pay, hopefully to get better starting young teachers. We'll keep firefighters, we'll keep teachers from being fired. There have been layoffs in the past, so those are the positives. Now, whether you sell that to the people is your job.
Well, let me tell you something else we have to do. We have debt service because we have bonds. In order to have parks, in order to have schools, you have to have bonds. You have to borrow the money, then you repay it. If we do not raise our property taxes right now, we will not be able to pay our bonds and our debt service. That means that you'll have a city like Birmingham, Alabama. Do we want to be like Birmingham, Alabama, where we cannot pay our debt service and pay our bills and our debt? No, we want to continue to move forward. Another thing is we've had 600 employees laid off or positions stopped. That means that employees are having to do 2 and 3 and 4 times the job without any pay increases. And so this gives us an opportunity to say to the employees, we're going to also make sure you get a pay increase now because you haven't had one in 7 years. That's important that you keep your city moving forward so you can provide those services and have employees to do so. I want to address what Steve Gill said. The candidates who ran and said, I will not raise your taxes, who ran at large, they all lost.
But the individual council members were running, and they were not saying it's going to be a 53-cent tax increase. They weren't running on a proposal that I think Mayor Dean and I think a lot of the other council members knew was coming in specificity. They didn't run on that and make it a referendum. It's fine to claim now it was a referendum, but you should have made it a referendum in terms of specificity then, or give the voters a chance to vote. The other thing I'd point out is a lot of businesses have had to lay off people, have had to cut workers. The only area of job growth we've seen in this country the last 4 years has been adding people to the public sector. City, county, federal government employees. And the city governments, the state governments, the federal government ought to be having to pare back in tough economic times, just like the businesses, big and small, that are having to pay the taxes. And we're not seeing any real cuts in our city government at a time when everybody else is having to cut back.
We had some serious, significant cuts over the last 4 years. I was on the council. I had to vote some tough budgets, and we had to cut. Let me tell you where we have increased, like Steve has said, police and fire. That's where we had an increase. We haven't had an increase in teachers. We haven't had any increases in Metro employees. But you know what? Neighborhoods like mine in North Nashville are now safer. Crime is down. Rape is down. Murder is down. Drug dealing is down. You know why? Because we added 100 police officers in the North Nashville corridor. If we have to make these, if we don't pass this tax increase, we will have to lay off those police officers, and we'll go back to crimes being as high as they were 4 and 5 years ago. So yes, we have more police officers, and I think that's a good thing.
As long as taxpayers that were paying for bureaucratic teachers union operatives at Bransford Avenue to run the union on the taxpayer dime, you've not cut what needs to be cut.
There has been growth in the population of Davidson County of Nashville. There has been growth in the school system. They're going to have more students next year. So I guess, is there a realistic nothing, no tax increase, or is there a compromise to be made here? There may need to be some tax increase to offset some of this increase in people, increase in students, maybe not exactly everything that the mayor wants, but is it realistic to say nothing at all and try and still grow?
The compromise is when the mayor did not offer a 56 cents tax increase. I wanted a 56 cents tax increase so to make sure that we could cover everything we needed to, because we're going to have 1,700 more students. We need more police officers, more firefighters, all those things. He said, I will do the minimum I can, which is 53 cents. So what he offered, Bob, was the minimum tax increase he could and still keep our city moving forward with full services.
When you have leaders say no to tax increases, it's amazing how reasonable cuts can be found. The state of Tennessee, just a couple of years ago, we were being told, as Bredesen passed the reins, if we didn't raise taxes, there would be no teachers, there'd be no schools. Tennessee would be in dire straits. We had to raise taxes. We didn't raise taxes. Tennessee now has a $400 million budget surplus. We did cuts. We still have schools. We still have roads. We still have all the stuff we would have had, but they made reasonable cuts. Nashville has not yet done that.
And our infrastructure is bad on the state level. Our education system is bad on the state level. Our healthcare system is bad on the state level. We have more people who have diabetes, hypertension. We have a huge disparity in healthcare between the rich and the poor. So you can say, yeah, you still have a healthcare system, you still have a school system, but it's poor. You get what you pay for.
The council has to make a decision. Next Tuesday is the vote on this. Will a decision be made by Tuesday? Will you meet that, obviously, the June 30th deadline when you have to have a balanced budget proposal?
And sir, Sean McGuire, who's chair of the Budget and Finance Committee, he has already offered an alternative budget to substitute budget. It's a 53 cents tax increase with about $8 million in savings to go into a rainy day fund to pay for our debt service increase over the next 2 years. That will pass on Tuesday.
I don't think the Metro Council ought to be lecturing the rest of the state on schools when you've got the number of failed schools in Nashville. I don't think you guys are where we're going to take our lessons of how you do a school system that works.
Nationally, big news out of the White House, the change in immigration policy. The president says they're going to stop deporting younger illegal aliens who have been in this country, who have no criminal record, who have gone to school, who served in the military. Good idea?
It's a great idea. If you were brought here by your parents and by no desire of your own, and now you're here, you've been raised here in America, you should stay here in America. Go to school, go to college, get your degree, become a post office worker, become a doctor or lawyer. That's what the American dream is all about, giving opportunity to people, whether they were born here or not born here. I believe that if they are a law-abiding person, they should have the right to be a citizen and continue living the American dream.
Illegal, against the law. If I bring my child here illegally, I shouldn't benefit, nor should they benefit by breaking the laws of the land, stealing jobs from Americans, running up the tab in our school systems, in our social welfare system, because they've broken the law. You are rewarding illegal behavior, and it is just absolutely wrong. I think the American people will understand that.
The Bible tells me to love my neighbor. It doesn't say whether they are born here or not. So I'm going to love my neighbor, and I'm going to love them, and I'm going to support them. I don't care if they were born here or not.
Jerry Maynard, Steve Gill, appreciate your time and your insight. Stay with us. This Week continues in a moment.